Here we go with another tournament game. We have Express on the right and Grendel on the left. So Express seems to have a pretty good start here. This is, I see a sure gamble. That's all you need to have a good start. And Grendel wants to restructure. I didn't quite see the... There we go. They got the restructure. So Grendel is happy. And I see a hedge fund in hand. So I would expect some ice over HQ next. And I think all I really see is a Grendel. Oh, he has something else. Okay, so he had something else to install over HQ, which I would guess has an end run subroutine on it. So he is exposed on R&D, and especially against Express. So he's just going to Dirty Laundry, I think, R&D. And I couldn't quite tell what that was. But not an agenda. And I'd be worried about this against Express because you might have a planned assault indexing first click against you, would be my concern. But he didn't really have the ice to defend that both central, so I figured he might as well get an early. So he does. I guess he doesn't have an agenda in hand. Oh wow, he does. Okay, but it's just a false lead, so he's willing to risk it rather than res potentially a really expensive ice. And you're not playing against Gabe, so there was no, other than seeing the agenda, there was no extra benefit to that run at that time. There's no Desperate out, no Data Sucker. So we got some aggressive drawing here. And Grendel looking for another solid piece of ice to defend up R&D. And more money. So this money, especially with that drawing, has to really worry the runner. Because, you know, if he's drawn into those sea sources, Scorched Earth, you're going to have a problem keeping up. So it looks like we have a planned assault. I am guessing he's going to get an indexing. He's going by those count siphons.
And I'll gain a credit for playing indexing.
And he's getting that the credits for the run events. The Express gets a credit the first time they play a run event on turn. So look at 5 cards here and rearrange them. So note about indexing, you're looking at them, you're not accessing them, so that's why that snare does not trigger yet. He can put that snare on the bottom if he wants. Fortunately, you can't quite see what's in R&D there except for the snare, which I think is on the very bottom. So as a runner, you want to keep track of where the snare is. So you know when it's safe to go into HQ and when you know it's safe to go into R&D.
Yep. Drop. Grappling. Cool.
Looks like he gave him an ice, but I'll try and keep track of the ice, see if he's... Looks like is that an ice wall, I believe?
All restructure?
Wow, he got all 3 restructures there in the first, 10 cards or so. And he's using that in the run ice, whatever it was, whatever he saw in the indexing, I believe, to maybe threaten an agenda score next turn. So we got some drawing here on the right.
Okay, just game 3.
So he's Dirty Laundry in Archives. He already knows what's on R&D, which may be that snare even. I think he really needs to start pressuring that ISO, because he's making these runs which are really risky. He's not going to be able to out-trace Waylon. Waylon has almost 30 credits. Okay, so he's leg working in, and Martin is not resing that ice. It makes me think there's no agenda in here. I'd be really surprised. Oh, okay, so power shutdown, Grim, and one Scorched Earth. So we need to make sure we're at least 4 cards at the end of the turn here to guarantee any sort of safety.
Draw click 1. Install, paying 1.
And we're not seeing any breakers out yet. There's, not been any ice reses. This is, I think, an asset the Corp has that the Corp doesn't always realize. If you don't res ice, they're not super motivated to go search for breakers. I mean, you are letting them in, but if you're letting them into HQ, for example, and you don't have any cards in there, and there's no added benefit, then that's fine. You don't need to, you don't want them to install their code gate breaker or whatever, and then risk getting into your remote. So sometimes not resin ice is a good thing to do. So we got a passport installed. This is the code breaker that only works on central servers. And he draws another indexing. And he's playing it 4th click, so he gets a credit for that because he is Express. He's going to see these cards, but he's not going to be able to access them until next turn. So you're going to want to keep that ice and run ice on the bottom, unless it's a code gate. You can afford to get through those now. And hopefully pick up an agenda on this one. And these indexing is really slowing Grendel down. So he's power shutdowning for 1 to get rid of the code gate breaker. It looked like that was maybe a hedge fund would be my guess. I only caught a glimpse of it, but I don't think that was an agenda. And he pretty confidently slammed that ice down, which looks like an enigma over R&D. Rather than his archives, if that was a 5-3 agenda or something like that. So Martin knows that his agendas are in R&D, so he's putting his focus there in terms of defense. And he's not worried about an account siphon here. He's not worried about, I guess, the runner throwing down a random breaker and getting in, so he's betting that's not going to happen. So he's got a special order here. Looks like he has knights in there, so he might try and knight account siphon at some point. He's getting an alias up. So alias is the central breaker for, it's a killer for sentries. Gotta love those sleeves, the mustache sleeve. Someone else had ninja eye sleeves, and I was able to combine the 2 sleeves into a ninja mustache face, which was entertaining at the very least. The Armitage has just been sitting there, not been needed. The Express here has been able to build his economy pretty well just on running. So we got a risky 4th click run. And he just lets him right in. This makes me think he has the Sea Scorch combo in hand, but I don't see it. And 5 cards on the right. Oh, so he draws that snare. I think that snare was just pushed down by the 2 indexings.
Go ahead. First click.
So Grendel here is just really waiting for either the Sea Source to come up and another Scorched Earth if he doesn't have one, or an agenda. So you start pressuring that remote. So we got the alias down. The runner really needs to get something like a Data Suck or a Desperado out, needs to make these runs more efficient. And definitely needs a Plascrete or some sort of meat damage defense. Decoy is another good option against most Wayland builds, but Criminal often doesn't want to have to clear tags. Drawn up into an ice, and another... I can't tell what that card is. Some operation. 3 ice deep here on the remote. There's been no ice resin yet. And he ices up archives. I can't think of a really good reason why he did this yet. Maybe just had the extra ice and kind of had a free click. But there's been no threat of a remote or a archive threat like Sneak Door. But it's a smart thing to do. Against Criminal, they have Sneak Door. They often have things like Data Suckers. So it's a good thing thinking ahead.
Yeah, I'm just doing started at 6.
He's explaining that the Armitage he has just those are counters on the number of uses on Armitage rather than the number of credits, because Armitage cannot have 3 credits on it.
Same old thing.
And it's a good thing we have 2 ice now on HQ, because that was a Knight siphon away. Although the Corpse Econ is so far ahead at this point. Oh, that's an anonymous tip. So it's a somewhat... Okay, so he gets Subliminal going, which I think is going to start paying off a lot, because that's all this ice out now. Alright, so he installs, advances what I think is an Atlas, would be my guess. I suppose it could be a Geothermal. 2 most likely. And the runner doesn't have a real good way to get in that remote. He could put that, he could guess with the Knight, where the threat is. But there's code gates and barriers now that can stop him. So he puts down the Crowder. Now it's just the code gates that'll stop him, and sentries, unless if he guesses correct with that knight.
Okay, the inner ice.
Interesting. So he's just going on R&D, more R&D pressure, and he's going for Maker's Eye. Run event, he pays 1 less for that essentially. And I think Martin wants to defend here. I think he wants to res something. Just really thinking about that front ice. I think that's probably Grim. Yeah, that's a Grim. So he's really hesitating there. Given bad publicity, and the runner can buy through this. It's expensive. I think it's 5 credits to get through.
Access 1. Access 2. Access 3.
And he gets a hostile takeover. So Grendel would have loved to see that. And that's game. So Martin just throws down the Sea Scorch. He probably didn't even need to. The only reason to res that was to I don't know. He didn't really need to. Maybe to try and get the runner to jack out before encountering the next ice, or because he didn't have enough money. I don't know. But he had the win in hand, or he might have actually drawn that second Scorch Earth. I didn't quite see. But in any case, that's how that deck works. That's why you need Plascrete against it, unless if you think you could out-econ it, which is really, really hard to do with that Operation Economy. And you definitely need to get them to res ice. If the corp is not resing ice, they're not spending their money, and you're not slowing them down. So I think we needed an account siphon just on HQ earlier in the game to get the corp to res that ice. Would have been a good thing to do. Just get him to spend some money. Especially didn't seem to want to res that ice, so that's a hint that maybe it's something expensive. You put down a fairy or your alias, and then you account siphon, then they're at least going to res something. And I think you need them to get the corp to res ice to have a shot here. You need that because it's going to prevent you from getting a successful run, which Sea-Source needs. And just kind of a funny way to think of it. But you mostly need to slow down their economy. The Operation Economy gets out of control really fast.
Each one kind of plays into the other.
So, and that's why Plascrete's important. Alright, so that's the end of the game. It was another quick one. We will have a few more from this tournament on the channel soon. Thanks for watching.